Hey, what's up, good people? Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. Boy, tonight was a big surprise for me. Bruce Arians, literally out of nowhere. Shout out to you, Gina, for for letting me know that Bruce Arians had retired. That was kind of shocking. A couple of things that were shocking about it. One, that he would have gone to the owners' meeting and everything, got his picture taken there with all the other coaches, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, retire. I hope that his health is not an issue, and that's the reason why he's retiring. I think he had some health issues in the past. I hope nothing has resurfaced where he's looking and saying, I've got to deal with that situation and so on. But being a head coach, being an NFL coach is a 365-day-a-year job with a lot of pressures. I remember Joe Gibbs famously sleeping on the couch, as they said, literally every night during the season. And, you know, people say, oh, well, Tony Romo, he should come back and be offensive coordinator. Why would you leave a gig that's paying you about 10, 15 million a year for a lot less to end up being hated and blamed for any loss and having to put in the amount of work that they do? But let's be clear here. There's only a certain number of people in the world can actually do that job and do it well. Todd Bowles, it's great that he is getting an opportunity, a second chance, so to speak, with coaching Tampa Bay. They're going to tear up his defensive coordinator contract, and they're going to give him a 5-year deal. Shout out to him. We don't know what his coaching is going to be like now that he actually has a team with players. You know, a lot of times minority candidates don't exactly get the cream of the crop jobs. You end up going into places where basically nobody's been successful, and you're coming in there after everything's literally rock bottom, and generally speaking, you don't have much of a chance at being successful, but you become the fall guy to bring in somebody else. But I'm kind of surprised, though, that Todd Bowles got it instead of Brian Leftwich. Brian Leftwich, with the offense and everything else, I thought would be the new guy, the new hire and things like that. But both of them, I think, are well qualified. I guess in some regard, they looked at it and said, well, you got Tom Brady there, so, you know, he's kind of the de facto head coach and so on. Todd Bowles will take care of the defense, and they're good to go. But we'll see what they do with this. But you got to say that this will definitely be a change, quite a bit of a change from Bruce Arians and his philosophy to seeing what Todd Bowles does if he ends up making major changes on any of the coaching staff and all now that he is the top dog, or if he just goes to the status quo. So when that happened, I went ahead and did a live stream. Instead of recording it and putting it up and waiting for it to, I was just like, I'll just go live. I'll just do it live. Just do it live. And it's interesting because I was talking about Tom Brady and I was talking about Bruce Arians, and somehow the chat went into Dak Prescott sucks. The Dallas Cowboys will never win with Dak. And so, and of course, that Dak's overpaid. And so I would go through and I say, wait a minute, hold up. Dak's contract number is only $18 million this year. Dak Prescott's contract number, and this is what I think, I hate that, I think a lot of people have preconceived notions that really don't do that much investigating. That they don't necessarily know. They go by, unfortunately, what you hear on television. Skip Bayless spent all of last year saying that Dak Prescott literally pulled a Stephen Jones and threw Jerry Jones against the wall and fleeced him out of $70 million for that year. Understand that Aaron Rodgers, when he just got his new deal, got $150 million guaranteed. How they counted on the salary cap is the only thing that matters. When you look at Deshaun Watson, who's got legal issues that it's funny that the NFL is kind of saying, oh, well, we're going to do our due diligence and take our time. That's not what they did with Zeke Elliott. They had Zeke Elliott already hung. And Zeke Elliott was never charged with anything. And it was one accuser. There's over 20 here, but be that as it may. Be that as it may, there's a different thing. Nobody bats an eye that Deshaun Watson just got $235 million fully guaranteed, and he might not even play this year if the NFL suspends him. I don't hear people say that Jared Goff, who's actually making more money than Dak Prescott this year on the cap, that he's overpaid. I don't hear people saying that Ryan Tannehill, who's a $38 million hit, let me say it again, Ryan Tannehill is a $38 million hit this year. I don't hear people talking about Carson Wentz being a $29 million hit, being overpaid. Because you follow this whole thing. And I was going like, what are y'all talking about? I was literally asking, so what are you talking about? $40 million a year. He's too much money. Well, I hate to tell you now, $40 million is now the new 30. $40 million is the average of the whole life of the contract. Lamar Jackson, let me explain something to you. Lamar Jackson's not in a hurry to get his contract. That's why he's like, I'll play on this year's contract. That's cool. I'll wait because the money come 2024 is going to be up. Because I can tell you right now, by 2025, the quarterbacks will be getting $60 million a year. We'll look back and say, damn, Dak's contract's pretty cheap. It's a good thing the Cowboys signed him when they did. Because it always goes up. So I did another thing. Dak's a garbage-ass quarterback. I said, to think that Dak Prescott this time last year was not cleared to do any running, was not cleared to do any passing, ended up in training camp not able to play in preseason games or even throw because of her shoulder. Ended up having his shoulder on the non-throwing one operated on to clean it up. Had a second surgery to clean out his ankle. Ended up sustaining a calf injury during the season. And if you look at the numbers before calf injury and after, you have to look and say that injury had an effect, along with Zeke Elliott tearing his PCL. Tony Pollard ended up hurting his foot, as well as Amari Cooper missing 2 games and a third where he didn't do anything, and CeeDee Lamb also missing time, and Tyron Smith being hurt. With all of that going on, here's what was funny, and literally got my anger. I got pissed off. My blood pressure boiled. I took, shout out to Pro Football Focus. If you go to Pro Football Focus and take statistics, I'm going to teach you something here. If you go to Pro Football Focus, you'll get the stats on any player that you want, current, past, whatever. Now, some statistics like sacks, before 1980, they weren't really counting sacks and things. They weren't a metric, so you'll just see blanks and stuff. You can take a player, and after you go past, the normal stats, in there, it has a spot where you can do player comparison. Player comparison. You can do it for their career. You can do it for a year, the current year or whatever. And so I take Dak Prescott and Aaron Rodgers, and you can do this yourself. Here's the thing that's amazing. Because they say, well, you can't win with Dak Prescott. He sucks. If you take Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott, Green Bay has 2 more wins than the Cowboys did. And they say, of course, well, the Cowboys, you're in a patsy division. And this is where I say, wait a minute. I know that the Giants were terrible. Washington actually had a 4-game win streak, and I believe they beat Tampa Bay. Didn't they beat Tampa Bay? For a while there, they were actually playing really good and were on a hot streak. Not that I'm saying that they were one of the great teams, but the Eagles won enough games to make the playoffs. See, the NFC East, the NFC least, as people say, had 2 playoff teams representing them. Can you say that about the NFC North? The NFC North only had 1 team over 500, and that was the Green Bay Packers. You had to look at the Detroit Lions as one of the worst teams in football. Chicago Bears weren't really good, and Minnesota had a couple of good games, but they didn't have a winning record either. You can also go to the NFC South and look and say, yeah, Tampa Bay was great, but look at Carolina. That Carolina did have like a 3-game win streak there, where all of a sudden people thought Sam Darnold was great. But after that, they went downhill fast. The Atlanta Falcons, terrible. Seattle, the Saints, they were doing good till Jameis Winston got hurt. But again, below 500. So to say that the Cowboys faced nobody, well, we faced at least competition as good as Green Bay did in a tougher division. And I think Green Bay, didn't they lose to Minnesota one time? Just saying. Cowboys didn't lose to anybody in their division. Just pointing that out. So with all of that going on, with Tyron Smith out, having La'el Collins with his, suspension, having Tyler Badish as a terrible center, having Connor Williams, the most penalized player in the NFL, with Dak Prescott having the shoulder injury on his throwing arm, having the other injury, having the ankle recovery that was coming from, having the calf injury, ended up getting the Dallas Cowboys record for most touchdown passes in a season. But not only that, if you go to Pro Football Focus and you do what I was telling you, where you compare Dak Prescott's season to Aaron Rodgers, something interesting will happen. Aaron Rodgers was the league MVP. Aaron Rodgers had 37 touchdown passes, the same number that Dak Prescott had. The two of them both had 68% completion percentage. Dak Prescott actually had 300 yards more passing than Aaron Rodgers. The only thing that you could say was different was Aaron Rodgers had, I think, 4 interceptions. Dak had 10. That's the only discrepancy, because even yards per completion were within 1/10 of a yard. So to say, well, Dak Prescott's a dink and dunker, or Dak can't read defenses, how do you explain that Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott had the same statistics? And quite frankly, because people literally, it's almost comical, the responses you get, because they'll say, oh, they lost the first game in the playoffs to San Francisco. Same thing happened to Aaron Rodgers. He lost to San Francisco, and Jimmy Garoppolo was actually in worse shape. Jimmy Garoppolo got injured against the Cowboys. So again, I go back. What's the difference there? And as far as getting paid, Baker Mayfield, at the moment they're saying, we're going to keep Baker Mayfield on the team. They're going to keep him on the team until somebody gets a quarterback hurt and is desperate for one, and hopefully try and trade him. But Dak Prescott's contract number is less than $1 million more than Baker Mayfield's. Yeah, Baker Mayfield's. And Dak Prescott's contract is less than $1 million more than Sam Darnold's is this year. So it is what it is. And people say, well, Dak sucks and this, that, and the other. I still go back to last year was a tale of 2 seasons. You look at before the calf injury and after, it's like 2 different quarterbacks. If Dak plays next year for the whole year like he did the second half of the season, by all means, I say definitely. Then Dak, we got problems at quarterback. But I'm betting that now that Dak this year is actually able to throw, and he's throwing twice a week, he's really a full go now that he's gotten all of these injuries and things taken care of, that he's not having any other surgeries this offseason, that he will be there able to throw in all the OTAs. He'll be able to throw and do stuff in training camp and to do stuff for preseason. I'm betting that Dak Prescott comes out a lot better, especially if the Cowboys take care of things like, say, the offensive line, and we shore that situation up, and we get a semblance of a running game. Watch out for the Cowboys and Dak Prescott. Don't believe the hype of guys like Colin Cowherd. Funny thing I'll say is, I played a clip. Of course, the YouTube police got me on it. But I played a clip of Colin Cowherd talking about Carson Wentz being a Maserati. And he's already saying that the Washington football team has the edge in the division because Carson Wentz is a better player. The funny thing about that video was he also in that video talked about Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold and about how great a quarterbacks those two guys were going to be. Yeah, so there's that. Well, as always, I want to thank everybody for being here and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. You guys make life so much more fun. You allow me to vent all of my frustrations and everything else on it. Oh, one other thing too. There's always so much when you're dealing with the Cowboys. Tomorrow is the hearing for Jerry Jones's paternity suit. And it's become a tangled web. Alexandria's attorneys clamped back on this whole extortion attempt, allegations from Jerry Jones and things, where all this is being tied to a grand scheme where it's all, everybody's trying to get my money and stuff. And part of this thing is interesting because the Cowboys are a family organization. I remember being at training camp one year, and Stephen Jones's kids were out there giving out bottles of water and stuff on the sidelines and things. Jerry Jones's grandkids. You got the grandkids working at training camp. Charlotte Jones Anderson, or I guess just Jones now, her husband, Shy, was a COO of the organization, an attorney for the Cowboys, or Jerry Jones's family and stuff. As I was going through, because I like to do research, I like to find, information on what I'm talking about and things. Funny thing is, 10 years ago, at a game, you may remember this, Jerry Jones is sitting there with Jerry Jones Jr. beside him, and Jerry takes off his glasses and he hands them to a lackey. And he cleans his glasses for Jerry Jones. Hands them back. Jerry Jones puts on. And he was the butt of the jokes. He was the butt of the jokes of the Cowboys. Oh, man, look at this guy. Jerry Jones got this guy cleaning his glasses and stuff. What's funny is that was actually Shy Anderson. Shy Anderson, Charlotte Jones's husband, who was ridiculed on TV. And the thought is, a lot of these leaks, because now that Charlotte and Shy are going through a divorce, they're pointing at Shy as the leaks for Rich Dalrymple and some of this other stuff right there. So be careful. Who knows where the bodies are buried? And be careful what you force people to do, because payback can be a bitch. As always, I want to thank everybody for being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. And tomorrow's another day, and I'm betting that tomorrow will be a day that we hear more about Bobby Wagner, maybe visiting another team, maybe the Cowboys having a change of heart and having a little bit of interest in there because all of the crap that's going to be dropping with the Joneses suit. Yeah. In the meantime, make sure you tell somebody you love that you love them. Oh, and shout out to everybody who's donated to the GoFundMe for Faith Fight Finish this weekend. Just a couple of days from now, we'll be seeing our quarterback, and we'll be giving him a donation for his charity. And so if you make a donation on the GoFundMe, and the link is in the description, the link is in the community tab. If you end up making a donation in there before Friday at noon, I'll end up having your name put on the plaque that goes to Dak, as well as the plaque that we're going to give away to one of you great fans. So with that being said, I'm going to get out of here, and make sure you tell somebody you love them tonight, because you might not get a chance later. Peace.